Anthony Frank Hawk, born May 12, 1968, nicknamed Birdman, is an American professional skateboarder, entrepreneur, and the owner of the skateboard company Birdhouse. A pioneer of modern vertical skateboarding, Hawk completed the first documented 900 skateboarding trick in 1999. He also licensed a skateboarding video game series named after him published by Activision that same year. He retired from competing professionally in 2003 and is regarded as one of the most influential skateboarders of all time. 7. Hawk has been involved in various philanthropic activities throughout his career, and is the founder of the Tony Hawk Foundation, now named the Skatepark Project, which helps to build skate parks in underprivileged areas around the world.
Am I looking forward to this? To be honest, when I realized that this got the green light and that Sony's behind it, I had intense anxiety for 2 days straight. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Is it real? Will it really work? I have no idea what to expect on my first attempt. Basically, this ramp is a vertical spiral, a sideways loop. I asked Tony P if he could make this a reality, and he and I brainstormed, and he's on his way.
Yeah, this is weird. I mean, I've never seen anything like it before.
Yeah, I have nothing to base it on.
It's definitely different, you know? It's tricky. The main thing is, like, how am I gonna brace it?
I wish someone could give us, we need a scientist. We need, like, Bill Nye here. The general concerns with something like this, well, one, not sticking to the wall and just falling down to the bottom. I think the challenge is coming out and not actually just shooting out at the end. That's going to be a lot of momentum that you're building up in that tight space, and it's got to go somewhere. I'm just projecting. I have no idea what to expect. If I let the anxiety take over, then it's going to be worst case scenario, because that's all I've thought about. But I do think it's possible. I think I'm capable of doing it, and that's what I'm going to hold on to. But yeah, I'm scared as hell. I didn't really know what it would look like when it's finished. I think it looks pretty awesome. I mean, it's like watch what you wish for. As far as I know, no one's done anything like this, and so people keep asking me questions like, well, how do you approach it? I don't know. I'm just gonna find out the hard way, I guess. It feels like the first time I tried the loop. Like I just walked up to it and it was like, holy shit, what have I done? But I'm up for the challenge.
Second try. I can't figure that out.
Nobody at the wheel, somebody hold the controls, give them something real. Somebody grab the wheel, somebody aim the machine to us something real. Somebody step on the brakes, someone in fiddles take the wheel, someone blow me away.
gonna do it. I think it's just gonna be hanging that angle.
That was like a half head slide, knee slide. But hey, I didn't hit my hip, so success. Okay, get these pads out of here.
It's coming down. He's got it. He's got it.
Is anybody even driving this thing? Is anybody even driving this thing?
Here we go.
Is anybody even driving this thing? We keep on calling, but there's no one listening. Does anybody really know anymore where we're going and all what we're all headed for? Is anybody even driving this thing? Is anybody even driving this thing? Is anybody even driving this thing?
I'm so excited. I can't believe it worked.
Tony Hawk is undoubtedly one of the most recognizable skateboarders today, and you could even argue that he is the face of skateboarding. From his iconic video games to world records and contributions to building skate parks, Tony Hawk is known by anybody over the age of 12 in the Western world. Today, Tony Hawk is known as a household name, but that wasn't always the case. So for this week, I decided to take a look into the life of Tony Hawk and how skateboarding brought him to where he is today, in the first episode of Skate Stories. Tony Hawk was born as Anthony Hawk in Carlsbad, California on May 12, 1968. That's right, his real name is not actually Tony, but to keep things simple, I'll be calling him by a name he's known by. As a child, Tony Hawk was described as hyperactive, and his mother stated that he was so hard on himself and expected himself to do many things.
When I was a kid, I was very determined, also known as stubborn, sometimes difficult, but mostly persistent. I would say one of the most extreme examples of being hard on myself as a kid was I was skating one of the smaller bowls at the skate park. I mean, I was maybe 10 years old or something. And I really wanted to do a figure 8 carve, like around one side and then going the other way around the other side, you know? And I was trying it over and over and over. And my parents came to pick me up and I wouldn't get out of the bowl. My dad physically lifted me out of the bowl and into the car, because I just wouldn't give up.
His frustration with himself was so harsh that his parents had him psychologically evaluated at school. The results were that Tony Hawk was gifted, and he was tested with an IQ of 144, being placed in the gifted program and being a year ahead of a lot of his classes in school. Tony Hawk got his first skateboard from his brother in 1977 when he was only 9. This skateboard was obviously very different from the skateboards we have today, and was a lot more of a cruiser than something you can do tricks on. But regardless, without this board, Tony Hawk would have probably never become the professional skater we know him as today.
So I asked if I could ride it, and I stood on it. I went down the driveway, and then went all the way to the end of the alley and hit the fence because I didn't know how to turn.
A short time after getting his first skateboard, Tony was invited by some friends to go to a skate park, and he was amazed with the things skaters were able to do on their board.
And not long after that, I got invited to go to the skate park for the first time.
Oh, you did?
With a friend. A friend of mine was like, we're going to the skate park. And I was like, oh, yeah, I see. Like, I used to see pictures of people in pools. And so I was like, yeah, I want to go. And I went to the skate park and I saw people flying out of the back bowls, which were like these little snake runs. And I was like, so I want to do that. Whatever it takes to do that. And then I went to the pool and like these guys were flying out of the pool. And I was like, I'm coming here as much as I can to try to figure this out.
Throughout the next few years, Tony Hawk would continue skateboarding and started competing when he was just 12 years old and turned pro when he was only 14.
I turned pro when I was 14. Yeah. And then, but I mean when I say that, it might seem magical, but at the time, skating was this little tiny scene. So when I literally went pro, I was filling out an entry form to a competition, and I had already reached the top of the amateur ranks, and there was a little box that said pro and a little box that said am. So I checked the pro box, and that was it. I was pro. No one was offering me a contract. No one had champagne, you know what I mean? And like my coach was, I'll never forget, Stacy Peralta was looking over my shoulder, and I checked it, and he's like, okay.
That's it.
That was it, yeah.
Wow.
So by the time Tony Hawk was in high school, he had become a recognizable figure in the skateboarding scene and was considered one of the best skateboarders of the time, winning tons of competitions every single year. By the time he was a senior in high school, he was making around $160,000 per year. Adjusted for inflation, that would be like making roughly $500,000 per year today. With all the money at such a young age, Tony Hawk was able to buy his first house when he was only 17 and was spending his money on other random things.
And I was just throwing money away, you know, on cars and trips and sharper image and just the most ridiculous things. This is a long story, but my sister and I went in on a tanning bed together. It was like, I used it once, but I was like, yeah, tanning bed. Like, I'm never gonna go tan, but you know, you gotta have it.
As soon as Tony Hawk graduated high school, his father strongly encouraged him to go to college. But that obviously wasn't the path Tony Hawk took, because he moved to North Hollywood for 2 months to shoot Gleaming the Cube. At the time, it seemed like his success would never end. He was making money doing what he loved, and he was the best at it. But it all came crashing down in the early 90s. At the time, people thought that skateboarding was just another fad, and in 1991, Tony Hawk started noticing the effects of the loss of interest in skateboarding.
And then it all came crashing down in about like 1991, 92, where my paycheck was all based on royalties of skate products. And it started getting cut in half every month.
Wow.
Just from lack of interest, lack of sales.
The skate parks started to close down, and lots of skateboarding companies went out of business. The skateboarding scene went underground and experienced its most dramatic change to date. This was the birth of street skating, and unfortunately for Tony, that meant he was out of the club.
And also, my style of skating, I skated the ramps, right? So I'm a vert skater. Vert skating was just instantly not cool, because street skating had taken over. So I was considered this dinosaur, and it was just like, you're out. Skating's not cool, and you're not cool in skating.
Wow.
This time was very challenging for Tony, but he never stopped skating. After all, when he just started, there was no such thing as going pro or being able to make a living off skateboarding, so he never did it for the money. He did it because he enjoyed it. And because of this, even though he wasn't making the same money as before skateboarding, he kept doing it just because he loved it. To make ends meet, he would do freelance video editing and skateboarding exhibitions in amusement park parking lots, which would earn him enough money to pay rent. In 1992, at a time in skateboarding history when the business of skating was looking very bleak, Tony Hawk did the unthinkable, and he started a skateboarding company. Originally named Birdhouse Projects, but today is known as Birdhouse. It was founded on the premise that if you love something, you support it and nurture it. You put the best, most dedicated team of skaters together, and you do what you love. You skateboard. Throughout the years, the team has included some of the most famous names in skateboarding. Led by Tony Hawk in the beginning, the team featured Jeremy Klein, Steve Vera, and Willie Santos, and would later feature many other skaters, most notably including Andrew Reynolds and Aaron Jaws Hamoki. 3 years later, in 1995, ESPN would host its first X Games, known at the time as Extreme Games, featuring a bit of a confused group of extreme sports, such as bungee jumping, sky surfing, sports climbing, street lug, biking, water sports, no, not the Donald Trump kind, eco challenge, inline skating, and skateboarding. This was the first time skateboarding was featured on TV to such a big audience, and it is arguably because of the X Games that skateboarding had came back to the mainstream. In the past few years that skateboarding had fell off and left people's mind, skateboarding had evolved, and the things that skaters were capable of doing on their boards was unthinkable just a few years ago. X Games featured street skating as well as vert skating, which is what Tony Hawk participated in. Within the next few years, the X Games grew more popular, and so did skateboarding, leading up to 1999, possibly the most important year for Tony Hawk and his legacy. During the 1999 X Games, Tony Hawk landed the world's first 900. Although Tony Hawk had invented and been the first to land dozens of tricks before, his 900 is arguably the most famous trick ever landed in skateboarding. But what a lot of people didn't know is that he had been trying the trick for almost 10 years before finally landing it, and he never really expected to land it in the first place. That day, he just felt the ramp was perfect, and after nearly landing it a few times in a row, he managed to do it and blow everybody's mind. This was also the same year that the first Tony Hawk Pro Skater game was released, and this is what really changed everything. Tony Hawk started getting recognized not only by skaters, but by the general public.
I didn't really notice or realize how famous my dad actually was, so I was probably like 13-ish maybe. I remember when he started bringing home like the video games and stuff, that's when things kind of really were changing a lot because the video game was like a huge success, you know, and so.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was the third highest selling PlayStation title in November 1999 in the United States. From its release date in late December 1999, the game shipped in excess of 350,000 units, and it was available in over 10,000 retailers worldwide. And Tony Hawk Pro Skater and Pro Skater 2 were the third and second highest selling console games of 2000. To say that it was a hit is an understatement, and it is arguably because of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater that skateboarding was so popular in the 2000s and had inspired so many kids that played the game to pick up a skateboard for the first time. On top of all that, there's a total of 17 Tony Hawk video games released today, and there's also another one coming out soon, but that's a video for another day. Following 1999, Tony Hawk retired from professional competitions and would continue performing at the X Games till 2003. That's not to say that he completely stopped skating though. He continues to skate to this day even when he's 52 years old, and he even went back and landed his 900 for his 48th birthday, and has also participated in multiple unique skateboarding projects such as the Loop of Death and the Downward Spiral Loop, just to name a few. And in 2002, he created the Tony Hawk Foundation in response to the lack of safe and legal skate parks in America. And as of June 2018, his foundation has awarded $5.8 million, aiding in 596 skate park projects across America. Aside from skateboarding, Tony Hawk has been featured in dozens of movies, commercials, and TV shows. Tony Hawk has pretty much single-handedly brought skateboarding to the mainstream and paved the way for future skaters to be able to make a living through skateboarding. And that's the story of Tony Hawk as we know it today. If you made it this far into the video, I just wanted to personally say thank you, and if you liked it, it would really help if you left a like on this video. And let me know what skaters you think I should do next. If you're new, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another upload. And anyway, that's all I have for you today, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.